Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sports Time HQ. I am your host, Fernando, and joining me today is my co-host, Keith, and a guest star, Emily. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good, Fernando. How are you?
Pretty good. Still got the camera issues, so we're...
And Fernando has died. I think, Emily, you're on mute.
I'm back. Just got to figure out the camera issue, but anyways, we're here.
I think, Emily, I think you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Technical issues, I tell you. Always part of something.
Of course. We always got technical issues, including myself still.
I was just on the phone with Apple support before this because my mic wouldn't hook up, my headphones wouldn't hook up. I was having the hardest time. But we made it. We're all in one piece. That's what matters.
For Fernando.
Yeah, besides me. I mean, right now I got no camera, but hey, it is what it is right now. I still got the starting sign in here.
I don't know what you do. You messed up.
Listen, at least we're starting, right?
Apparently so.
Apparently so without a camera. Anyways, let's get right into it. We got some breaking news. Aaron Rodgers, he signed 4-year, $200 million extension. What's your thoughts on this? Emily, you're wearing a Packers jersey. Let's hear it. What's your thoughts?
As you can see, I'm not wearing an Aaron Rodgers jersey. I'm wearing a Brett Favre jersey, the original gunslinger. If it was Brett Favre, I would be happy about the deal. But I just have to tell you, I'm so over Aaron Rodgers. I've been over him for the last 4 to 5 years. It's just been all of the things he says and all the things he does off the field that really bother me, that shouldn't. But also when it comes down to the clutch, he never comes through. He can't finish. He can't close. And so I hate that he's like foolproof as being the MVP, when in reality it's like, well, I don't think he should qualify for MVP when he can't even get us to the playoffs, for goodness sake. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
Got an angry Packers fan on tonight.
Yeah, I guess so.
But you can see I have a cheese head in the background.
Yeah.
So I'm a Packers lover, and honestly, I'm really conflicted about what happened today, because I didn't and I was not officially ready for a rebuild. I wasn't ready for that for the Packers, but it seems like our fate is sealed and we're with Aaron Rodgers for the next 4 years. So I do have an Aaron Rodgers jersey. I'll try to work on my resentments towards him. I can do that formally, and so I'll work on that.
Love that. Keith, what's your thoughts on it?
I think he just got what he wanted, really. I don't think he was ever going anywhere. I mean, like Emily says, everything he says and does, I think it's all for attention. Everything was on him today before the next big deal went through. And I think he's happy. I don't think he was ever going anywhere. And yeah, it's probably good for the Packers. Franchise tag and Davante Adams, definitely keep them together for a year anyways. I think that's good for the Packers. But like Emily says, he can't get the job done in recent years, failed playoff, runs and stuff like that. So they're going to need, I think this 4-year deal is they're going to have to get to a Super Bowl in one of these years. That's the game.
Yeah.
That's their aim. If it's not 1 year, 2 years, but that's the whole thing. It's a failed 4-year massive contract if they don't get to a Super Bowl.
I agree.
Yeah, I was just going to say that too. I was going to agree with you. I mean, if you sign someone for $200 million for 4 years, they better take you to a Super Bowl. And if they don't, in my opinion, I don't think the $200 million was worth it.
200 million? I want more than one Super Bowl, baby.
Better bring in all 4 years trophies back home. So, Keith, you already mentioned Davante Adams coming back. He got franchise tagged. He was one of the many that got franchise tagged. I know Dalton Schultz got franchise tagged, Mike Gesicki, Chris Godwin. I mean,
Mike Williams.
Mike Williams ended up signing a contract today,
Yeah.
which, in my opinion, I was shocked about. I wasn't expecting him to really re-sign, especially not a large amount. 3 years, $60 million with $40 million guaranteed.
For a guy that gets injured every season, fair play to the guy getting the money, but I mean, that's kind of crazy.
I get it. He's a red zone threat. He's a deep target threat, but that's really that's his comprehensive game right there. So
Yeah.
he has a single utility almost. So it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a lot of cash.
It's a lot of cash. I would take it. I'd be okay with that.
Oh, I would be very okay with that. But
Yeah.
I'll just take one.
Yeah. But he's the guy that can jump really high. Does all goes up and catches the ball and then falls on his head and he's out injured again. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
dude, you did it again.
I mean, he has the size. You wouldn't think he'd get hurt so often, and he has the hands and the physicality, but he does. He just gets hurt. He has major durability concerns.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I honestly thought that they were going to get rid of him, let him walk, and have Josh Palmer as the number 2 guy.
Yeah.
Josh Palmer showed a lot of flashes.
I like Palmer. I'm guessing he's just going to slot in as the number 3 guy now.
Yeah, which is unfortunate fantasy-wise.
Yeah, if you have shares of him, I do.
Yeah, I got a couple shares of him. But that's not all. I mean, there was a huge trade that happened. Keith, you lost your franchise quarterback, and it looks like you're celebrating. Let's hear it.
I think it's a fair deal for both teams. I don't think Russ wanted to be there. I mean, the age he's at now, he's in win mode. He wants to win. He wants another Super Bowl. The Seahawks are not there. They're not even a playoff team. I think they showed that last year, even though, I know Russ got banged up, but still too many holes in that defense. Offensive line has never been good. Even when we won the Super Bowl years ago, it's never been good. So I think it's a good deal for both sides. I think the Broncos got the piece that they were missing on offense because they got a lot of good weapons. And I think all the picks and, Harris, Fant, Drew Lock, whatever. Yeah, I'm going to have to kind of suck it up with him, I think, for a season and see what happens. But I'll be interested to see what the Seahawks do with all these picks because it's definitely a rebuild mode.
Yeah, we got Brennan in the chat. He says that he thinks Seattle won the trade. Emily, do you agree?
Do I think Seattle won the trade?
Yeah. Or do you think it was a fair trade, like Keith said?
I think that it's hard to say whether it's a good trade, but I think it's for the purposes of what the teams are doing, it was a good trade for both teams. Seattle's going to be rebuilding, obviously, and Denver Broncos, they're going to be fighting to win each game.
Fair enough.
I mean, if the Broncos go and win a Super Bowl, they won the trade. Like it's as simple as that. That's how I look at it. You know what I mean? That's the piece they're missing. They're good on D as well. So
I was just shocked that they gave 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 5th rounder, Drew Lock, defensive lineman Shelby Harris, and Noah Fant.
Yeah, I'm happy with getting Fant. I wasn't expecting when it was all kind of coming out piece by piece, and he was the last one to kind of be announced. Yeah. I was surprised we're actually getting Noah Fant. So
I think Seattle might have had the edge in the deal, though.
Yeah, in my opinion, Seattle, I think, takes it because of all the assets that they got on that. But again, like you said, Keith, if Broncos win the Super Bowl, did they really lose the trade?
That's it. That's their aim. So apparently the Commanders had offered Seattle a better deal, but we didn't want Russ in the NFC. So
that's fair. Or Russ just didn't want to go there.
Yeah.
Could be a mixture of both.
Yeah, could be a mix.
So a little fun fact that I saw from Michael F. Florio is Russell Wilson ranks first in attempts, completions, yards, and touchdowns on passes of 20-plus air yards since 2016. Also first in expected points added. On those passes, 40.4% completion and 30.5 air yards per attempt. He has 110.8 rating. That's an insane stat.
Yeah,
it is. I think I've been saying for years, I think Russ is the best deep ball thrower in the league. You can talk about Mahomes and you can talk about Brady and all he's there, but as a deep ball thrower, with accuracy, Russ is the best, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if you guys saw it. I think it was like a late night show that he was on with his wife or girlfriend or something, and he said that he wants to play till he's 45.
Yeah, really? Yeah, I'm not surprised. He's that kind of mentality and attitude, and kind of like. There's no real off season with Russ, so I wouldn't be surprised.
How old is he now?
33.
33.
33. Yeah. He's still got some time.
Yeah, and he spends $1 million every single year on his body.
That's just like Brady.
Yeah.
Brady spends more though.
Yeah. So, anyways, let's get into it. We're going to reflect on 2021 rookies, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we're going to start off with the quarterbacks. And I'm just going to name someone that probably was the first overall pick in fantasy football rookie drafts last season. and that's Trevor Lawrence. He ended up finishing with 207 points. Do you guys consider him good? Do you consider him in the bad, or do you consider him in the ugly category?
He's definitely in the ugly category for me. I mean, he was bad. He didn't take care of the ball an awful lot in most games. I know that Jags team in general is not very good, but come on, you could have done a lot better. There was there was a lot of pressure on the shoulders too, but to have a touchdown percentage rate of 2%, come on, that's terrible. He had 12 touchdowns for the season.
Lowest of all time.
Unreal. Nobody, I don't think, was expecting. Okay, we weren't expecting to light up the league or anything, but I don't think we were expecting to have this bad a first year. So it has to go into ugly for me. He needs to take a big step forward next year. That's kind of the way I look at it.
I mean, it was an especially difficult year for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Keith mentioned that among rookie QBs to start at least 12 games, his touchdown rate was 2%. That's the lowest of all time in the NFL. But we have to reflect on the fact that it was a toxic environment in Jacksonville this year. But, I'm not too bullish on Lawrence for I think that this is a good time that I would actually consider buying shares of him, just because he's never going to be at this all-time low that he is now. But it certainly was not a pretty season.
Yeah, he's definitely on a buy. He's a buy low candidate for sure. He's only 22. It's only been 1 year, but I do rank him in the ugly category as well, because for a quarterback that you drafted, I mean, you had DJ Chark there, you had Laviska Shenault. I mean, you had Marvin Jones there. It seemed like a team with Travis Etienne, James Robinson. It seems like you had some assets there that you could maybe potentially be the top rookie quarterback of this year's fantasy draft. And it just ended up not being that case.
I mean, he played well in week 18 against the Colts when the game mattered for the Colts. Everything was on the line for the Colts. He beat them. And I think that matters a lot. And I think that is why he was locked in for number one so long. And we have to reflect also on the fact that there was really bad coaching. I don't think Urban Myers knew who was on the field. And he was too good of a college prospect. I think he's going to rebound in his second year, as we usually see guys take big steps in their sophomore year. He also didn't have much support from management. And so I think this next year will be a little different. I'm hoping, at least.
Yeah, I mean, he really has to step up his game. I mean, if he ends up doing this awful again next season, who knows? I mean, with the new staff there, he could be gone.
Yeah.
He could be traded.
Yeah. I don't know if he'll do as bad, but I just don't see the big leap forward. I mean, that Jags offense, that Jags team needs an overhaul. I get it. Etienne's going to be back, but they lost James Robinson. He's probably going to be slow getting back into the fold. DJ Chark coming back, I don't know. They don't exactly have a lot of exciting weapons either that would help them. They're going to need a big, overhaul there to really get Lawrence to the next step.
I mean, of the rookie quarterbacks, he did have the most air yards per game at 275.4, which ranked him as QB 12 when he had that rating. He also was pretty impressive in his yards. He didn't have the most of the rookie quarterbacks, but he still had, I think, over 3,500 yards. Is it passing yards? Yeah.
Yep.
Which was less than Mac Jones by about 200. So comparing the two, how do you have a player like Mac Jones who's efficient, who's really quite good? I mean, he's not good for us in fantasy. His fantasy value isn't there yet. But how do you have a quarterback like Mac Jones, and then you have a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence? He puts up almost the same yardage, but completely different game that we saw from both of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
I mean, that's totally true. I mean, it was a total complete difference. And out of all the quarterbacks in this draft, I decided to put one person only in the good. Emily, you already mentioned him. That's Mac Jones.
The bias there, Fernando?
No, there's not bias there. I was trying to be unbiased the whole time. The reason why I put him there is he scored 230.9 fantasy points. That is the most among all rookie quarterbacks this season. So it was no bias there. Not at all. No bias. But I do love Mac Jones. I also just don't see him as a big fantasy relevant quarterback, and that's my problem.
Right.
But professional quarterback, he's a great quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, he's pretty good to excellent QB2, I would say. I mean, he ended as QB 18 with a consistency rank of 15. But I mean, he's sure to have a longer, more reliable career than the other guys, I would say. I mean, maybe Justin Fields has 10 years at Chicago, but I think Mac Jones is going to be the face of New England for much longer.
Yeah.
And it would help if he could get some help, honestly. You know, as a low-end QB1, if they got someone like Michael Thomas, he'll go as far as the offense goes. So he was efficient last year, but we need to know, will the offense open up? I mean, I feel good with him as an asset in Dynasty, especially if I have a 2 QB league, then I feel great about it.
Yeah, Mac had 22 touchdowns last year. That's pretty good. I don't think anybody thought, with all the run game and all that he actually had 22 touchdowns, but he did. He was more efficient, I think, than people thought, just not great for fantasy football. I think, there's talks of Amari Cooper coming in. They do need that, wide receiver one star name, whether it's Amari Cooper. I don't know whether he's a star guy. You said about Michael Thomas. I could see that depending on the injury. But they do need to give him that number one target, like, Rodgers has with Adams, where he can just hit him constantly. I think that would help, because when they got down to the red zone in critical situations, his decision-making wasn't great at times, kind of cost them here and there. And I think that's what he needs. He needs that target guy that even if the ball, is just in the area, he can go get it. It doesn't have to be right on his plate. So, yeah, I think Mac Jones is definitely good. But another quarterback that wasn't too bad. I don't think anybody had a lot of shares in fantasy, but Davis Mills wasn't too bad. When you go back and look at the stats, like, he only played 13 games, but he had 16 touchdowns, He was fairly solid for a guy that nobody really, had big hopes for. Over 2,500, passing yards, touchdown percentage of 4.1%. It's only 0.1 off Mac Jones. You know what I mean? So there's a guy I'd say I thought he had a pretty good season in another bad team.
I actually really like Davis Mills. I think he has potential. It's just the problem is Houston's just terrible team. I like to see a jump in Nico Collins. That's one thing I do want to see, and whether or not they bring anyone else in.
Yeah.
But overall, if I asked you both to name your top quarterback for each of the categories, the good, the bad, and the ugly, who's your top guys for each category?
Mac Jones is good for me. Bad, I would say probably Zach Wilson, and then ugly was Trevor Lawrence.
I am going to sound terrible, but that's my exact order too.
Okay. I was actually thinking, I was iffy on Wilson. I didn't know whether to put him in the bad or the ugly. So I put him down in the ugly because I think he shouldn't have been that bad. But anyways, I think that I put Justin Fields in the bad. I think even though Allen Robinson really didn't want to play last year, you had Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, David Montgomery. I mean, you had pass-catching running backs, but Fields is also a scrambling quarterback, so I would have expected him to really get more points than he did. He only had 124.8 fantasy points, and that is I think that's fourth or fifth in all quarterbacks. So I'm honestly shocked that he did as bad as he did. So I have Mac Jones the good, the bad is the Fields, and then the ugly is, of course, Trevor Lawrence.
Interesting. Yeah,
Sounds about right.
I don't disagree with you on the Fields call, because we had Dave on the other night from Dynasty Dorks, and he was saying, Justin Fields was just holding on to the ball way too long. Even in preseason, he was the quarterback that was holding the ball way too long, and I think that showed when he got in the team. It's only later on when they actually got him moving around and using his legs. But I think with, it's going to be a new coaching system there.
Yep.
I think they will get him to use his legs more. I think the interesting things with a lot of these players we're talking about, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, it's got all new coaches at some position. The Patriots get a new offensive coordinator in there. So things are going to be different for these guys. It's just whether they can learn it quick and take that jump to the next step.
As far as Justin Fields is concerned, I wish they would have brought in an offensive-minded coach, But it is notable to think about that he is cheaper than Trey Lance right now, even though Fields finished as QB 12 the last 4 games. But I'm just concerned without Allen Robinson, even though Allen Robinson had his worst year of his career, the receiving corps is really weak, and it's going to be hard for Fields. He's going to need a free agent wide receiver, and it wouldn't take a complete overhaul to shape up. But I would take him in Dynasty, honestly, and he's going to be the QB for the next 10 years, and I think his ceiling is higher than Mac Jones.
Interesting. I mean, I think you're hoping that Fields isn't the guy there for the sake of your Packers.
I have no mixed motives. What are you talking about?
a little bit of a mixture. All right, so that's some interesting stuff. So basically, we ranked Mac Jones really the good in all categories. So, Keith, I think it's safe to say there was no bias, in my opinion.
No, there was no bias. We didn't get Rookie of the Year, so oh well.
Yeah.
We had that conversation last year.
Yeah. Another question from Brendan is, if Trey Lance starts, where will he rank out of the second-year quarterbacks?
I love Trey Lance. I'm hoping he goes straight to the top.
Me too.
I mean, he was the guy I really liked coming out. I just think he has so much upside. He has the rushing ability and he has a great arm. I just hope he can hit the ground running because it looks like he will be the starter and Jimmy G will be somewhere else.
Yeah, he could be the highest QB prospect going forward. I mean, he has the rushing capacity, a creative scheme, and elite weapons on offense. He has Kittle, Debo, Brandon Ayuk. And I mean, the problem is there's not a lot of tape out there to evaluate him. But Shanahan has always been upfront about wanting to sit and develop Lance for a year, similar to the Patrick Mahomes model when he was behind Alex Smith. But I mean, Trey Lance, his rushing and his offense is good. There's signs to him being a prolific fantasy option. He's in a good, conducive environment for fantasy scoring. And he's a QB that can run the ball 10 times for 90 yards in a game with that big arm too.
Yeah, I mean, Trey Lance, as much as I don't want him to go over Mac Jones in fantasy, I think it's safe to say he really would. If he takes a starting role next season, he should be the top second-year quarterback. Mac Jones doesn't have the weapons that he does. Same thing for Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson. No one has the amount of weapons that he does. So he should be the one that should be the top quarterback in the second-year quarterbacks.
Yep.
Easily. So then going on to our running backs. There was definitely, I think it's safe to say that there was definitely more running backs in the good than there was quarterbacks in the good for 100%. And I mean, I think it's safe to say between all three of us, in unanimous vote, Najee Harris takes the good automatically.
He takes the great.
RB3, 300.7 rush fantasy points. I mean, there's nothing safe. He's safe. He's a safe running back right now. But going into maybe Michael Carter. I mean, Michael Carter was usually drafted in the second round in a lot of rookie drafts. He finishes as the RB29 with 153.4 fantasy points. What's your thoughts on him?
I thought he started off well and, kind of tailed off as the year went on. They brought in Ty Johnson and other running backs there. He was okay. I wouldn't say I'd be trying to fit him in between somewhere between the good and the bad in that. Like, I don't think he was that bad. I thought when he was out there, I thought he looked good. I think he is their RB1 going forward, whether that's the way they're going to, use him or they're going to have a committee. But I think he will progress and be a stud. I really like him coming out of college. I thought the land spot was pretty good too, because it allowed him to be that RB1 if they wanted to, go that route. So I don't think the season was great. Definitely didn't end great, but I think there's a lot of potential for him.
Yeah, I think that you made some really good points there. He did finish at RB29. And I guess because we're ranking good, bad, and ugly, I'm going to say he was 36% good because that's the stat. But he had multiple 8+ reception games, and only one of a few in the last 14 years have done that. And similar, I think he'll follow the rookie model. I think his play will improve over time. I mean, Tevin Coleman will be gone. He's an excellent receiving back. I mean, he won't be like Austin Eckler ever, but he could be a top 20 guy. He's just, the problem is he's better without Zach Wilson. He had 15 PPR points in week 7 against New England. He had 31 points for Cincinnati. He has a lot of upside, but he also has some downside. He's just more consistent when QB Mike White is involved. But maybe next year, if I'm optimistic, I would say that he'd be an RB21. The eye test and stats, he's also better than I thought. And he's the established running back 1 in the Jets offense. It's just that, can he survive the draft or free agency? I don't know if we'll see him as a bell cow. It seems that he always will split carries, but the Jets offense is really, really terribly uninspiring.
They like to clearly they all like seeing ghosts.
Yeah.
But I was going back and forth, same thing with you, Keith, on whether or not he would be considered the good or the bad. I ranked him the bad only because I think he had the starting role, and I think he should have done more in his production than what he did last season. I definitely think there's a chance for him to take the next step this year, but I think overall in 2021 he's definitely ranked the bad. 100% for me.
I mean, he did have a lot of targets, actually. 55 targets with 11.5% target share. That's not the greatest target share, but he had a lot of volume. He just, like he said, he didn't produce the way we thought he would. And he certainly, I mean, he had about the same number of touches as Javonte Williams. And I mean, Michael Carter finished with 639 rushing yards. And then you had Javonte Williams, who finished with 903 yards, which was 13th in the league. So, yeah, there's a big difference.
Yeah, he didn't capitalize at all of the production that he had in year 1. Moving on to someone that I think almost everyone, Keith, I don't know if you were really high on him, but Trey Sermon. Trey Sermon was drafted probably early to mid second round in rookie drafts. But yet he finishes, obviously he had some injuries, but he finished 28.3 fantasy points and RB 99. What's your takes on it?
I mean, Shanahan just did not think he was up to scratch. Like, if you looked at, Elijah Mitchell and where they took him in the draft, it should have been roles reversed. They should have been switched around, really. I mean, Elijah Mitchell was the guy when he got in. Trey Sermon, I don't think he's actually relevant anymore, especially for fantasy. I mean, if you have him, I don't think anyone's going to try and take him off your hands. You're probably just going to hold him, because at this stage, what are you going to look for? A 4th or 5th if you go that far in your drafts? I don't know.
And then you're in the running back dead zone.
Exactly, it's pointless. So it's a really bad one, because I think he would have went early in a lot of rookie drafts last year. And now you're kind of stuck with this guy, and you say, do you just drop him and see? I suppose if I had him, I'd hold him and see what happens. Shanahan's offense, when it comes to running backs, is a bit crazy. They're always involved in the game generally. So you never know. He could come back this season. Shanahan might think he's taken that step, and he gets in. But I wouldn't be too confident. And if you had him in fantasy now, I would be thinking this was bad timing for Trey Sermon.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, Sermon was my guy that I did not want to take in any of my rookie drafts. I did not trust him. I didn't trust the 49ers offense, because we've seen in previous years they like to use a bunch of different running backs. I mean, I think I saw a stat. I don't know exactly if it was this, but I think it was like they used 11 running backs to start in games in the last 2 or 3 years, something like that. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's something around that. And I just find that absolutely insane.
I don't know if Trey Sermon I don't know if he's going to all of a sudden become the guy in San Francisco, or if Elijah Mitchell is going to be the guy still. But all I know is that there's definitely some sort of conspiracy happening. No, I'm just kidding. There's definitely a Shanahan running back factory theory. I mean, all of his running backs have been injured every year, and it's concerning to me.
Yeah, the one thing I think Sermon might have going from is that I don't think Mostert and Hasty will be back. So, I'm sure they'll, bring in some other, maybe a veteran running back. The only problem is if they go draft a running back, well, then he's in trouble. I think, Elijah Mitchell is the only one that's probably, good to go there for next season. And like you were saying, Emily, about, being a factory of running backs, there's definitely going to be more than 2 or probably 3, come the start of the season they're lining up for the Niners, because that's what Shanahan does. So maybe Trey Sermon gets away with it because Mostert and Hasty won't be back. But
and Wilson is a free agent also.
Yeah. So then again, that's 3 of them. They might pick one of them and just bring them back on a year's contract or something. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Overall, what do you guys rank on the good, the bad, the ugly? Who's your top guys for the running backs?
I got
Besides Harris.
Okay, besides Harris, I'm going Javonte Williams is the good. Yeah, I'll put Michael Carter in the bad. Trey Sermon's definitely the ugly for me.
Yep.
I would say good Javonte Williams and Elijah Mitchell. I would say the bad Michael Carter and Travis Etienne. And then I would say the ugly was Trey Sermon.
Wow, that is spot on from what I have, Emily.
Oh, we have something in common then.
Yeah, I mean, Elijah Mitchell, the reason why I put him in the good is obviously he was drafted maybe in the 4th round of rookie drafts, and you saw his potential. He finished RB26. Whether or not he does good next year, it's still unknown whether or not he is a starter. Maybe somehow Trey Sermon ends up being the starter somehow. I don't know.
I mean, he had over 1,100 combined yards and 6 touchdowns over 11 regular season games. It's just that his durability is really in question. I mean, I get it if you have 3, times where you have an injury, and if it's the same injury, I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. It's a flare up. It's just flaring up. But the fact that he had 3 different injuries at 3 different times is really concerning for me. And I am all about selling my shares of him right now.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, if I have Elijah Mitchell, I'm trying to sell him as high as I can right now to get as many good assets, because I don't trust any running backs in the 49ers team.
Same.
So.
Hey, Fernando, before we move off running backs, what's your thought on your boy, Ramondre Stevenson?
Yes.
Oh, man, I love Ramondre Stevenson. Here's the thing. I can't remember the damn stat, and it really drives me insane because I couldn't remember the stat. But I think out of all the rookie running backs to have like over 600 yards rushing or 800 yards rushing and like 2 touchdowns, I don't know, something in the category. I can't remember, but it was very high names that he was in the same category with. It was from the Fantasy Footballers when they were reflecting on 2021 rookies. And I just found that amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing stat. Whether or not he's fantasy relevant going forward with Damien Harris there, I don't know about that.
I mean, he's had some huge games, some great running games. He showed a lot of flashes, but we'll continue to share early down work with Harris, unfortunately. He did have a 100-yard game with 2 touchdowns, which was pretty awesome. And
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, and what was it? He had 133 carries for 606 yards plus 5 touchdowns to go along with 14 catches on 18 targets for 123 yards. Honestly, I like him more than Michael Carter. He's very talented. I mean, he can catch while being a goal line back. I think that's a rare skill set to be both. And I'm predicting that 2 years from now, he's going to be the man. He's going to be the dude and increase his fantasy impact. Though if Damien Harris is back this year, I think that Stevenson is a risky pick. He won't get the touches passing or rushing. But when he gets the work, he was good. He showed flashes. He's not good as a pass blocker, but he could see enough touches to potentially be for flex consideration. And I think he has higher upside than Damien Harris, honestly.
Yeah, I agree with all that, Emily. Definitely.
Yeah, and I think Emily brought back the fact that I remembered. I think it was out of all the running backs, like he had like 200-yard plus rushing yards, and then also 2 touchdowns. And I think someone that compares that to him is Todd Gurley. He did that in his rookie season, and then there was a couple other big names that also did that in their rookie season. So I think that's something to keep in mind on whether or not he could be the next Todd Gurley. Hopefully he doesn't get arthritis, but next Todd Gurley. But yeah, something to keep in mind. But I think I'd rank him in the good because of the way he ended up playing. So
Some fun facts about him. He has the 4th highest juke rate, and he also has only 1 drop, which makes him 8th in the league.
Wow. Imagine that.
Emily, with all the fun facts today, look at you.
Wow. I'm enjoying these fun facts.
Yeah, keep them coming.
Yeah.
It's
Moving
like a
on.
factory.
Factory stats with Emily.
Yeah, factory stats.
There you go. There's a pod. There's a
Factory.
pod
Yeah.
name for you.
Actually, Edie Sedgwick and Andy Warhol back in the day, they had something that they called the factory. And I don't know if you guys can see me, but I have a figure that's below my giant whisk, and that's Andy Warhol. So the factory, it's completely fitting.
I gotta ask, what is the whisk for?
The whisk is because I like to make giant cakes. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
Just
No.
kidding.
I was,
I was like, I want a giant cake.
I know. I was really excited for it.
Well, look at it. It's so colorful and big. My brother gave it to me. I just needed something for the backdrop.
Fair
I
enough.
think it looks good.
Thanks.
So moving on to our wide receivers, again, same thing with Najee Harris. I think we can unanimously say Jamar Chase is the good, if not the exceptional, the only exceptional,
Yes.
The beast.
the beast mode. Anyways, so obviously we have Jamar Chase. He was wide receiver 5, 302.6 fantasy points. Going on to someone maybe Devonta Smith. He did good here and there, but he also didn't do as great as people intended him to do. Finished as wide receiver 31, 184.6 fantasy points. What's everyone's thoughts on him?
I liked them coming in. I thought he started slow, but so did kind of the Eagles. They kind of ramped it up, later into the season. Still didn't have that bad of a season though. He was just under 1,000 yards. I think it was 916.
Yeah. 900.
Yeah, so like five touchdowns.
touchdowns.
That's not the greatest number. But what are you gonna do? I like him going forward. Definitely for fantasy, he's definitely a guy to have. I think he's got 1 year under his belt there with Hurts. He is the main guy. He is that wide receiver 1 in that offense. I think he will be good next year. I think he'd be a guy that I don't know where people will value him, in Dynasty this year because he didn't, set the world alight last year. So you might be able to get him a little bit cheaper than maybe what people thought. So I'd definitely be going after Devonta Smith. I think I'd put him in as good.
Yeah, and I agree, but I also hope we're going to talk about Jalen Waddle because I have him listed as good. But I think that Devonta Smith was a definite okay, but as a first-round pick, it was a little bit of a disappointing season. But we have to consider that he's playing with Jalen Hurts, who is, let's be honest, not the most prolific passer. But like Keith said, he had more than 900 yards and 5 touchdowns. I think that's honestly a pretty solid rookie outing. And like we said earlier, I mean, he had 29% good games. He had the 15th most receiving yards for a rookie. He's also not of the body frame, the physicality that you'd expect from a wide receiver. He's really skinny and twiggy, but he can handle the NFL. He can beat defenders. He can handle pass coverage. But I don't know. He had 25.6% of the team's receiving yards, and he had more than 80-yard receiving games 3 times. It's just that, will he get the touches? I don't know. I love his potential. The upside of if Philadelphia is last in pass attempts is good, but can he win at the NFL level? His small frame seems just fine, but the dude, he washes people. He's that good of a technician. He's always open. I'm just more concerned that his QB can't hit him. So I definitely think he has wide receiver 1 potential in him, but that would mean that Jalen Hurts would need to improve. But he's definitely the alpha of the passing game, and I want to buy him now, and I am buying him now. There's just going to be a little patience required in Dynasty, but I'm thinking in 2022 he might get like 140 targets.
So
his nickname is now Mr. Twiggy after that.
yeah, I know, Mr.
Twiggy.
Twiggy. So everyone clearly should be going to the factory of Emily's factory to buy Mr. Twiggy, because clearly he's a buy now candidate. I do like Devonta Smith. I think he's got potential. I kind of wish that there was a middle category between the good and the bad, because I think that's where he would fall. He's kind of like iffy right in the middle, but same thing what Emily was saying. If Jalen Hurts can take that next step and Devonta Smith is the wide receiver one there, I mean, there's a chance that Devonta Smith can finish top 20 next season. But Emily, you're talking about Jalen Waddle. Seems like you really like him. What's your thoughts on him?
I do. I love Jalen Waddle. I mean, he had 141 targets with 104 receptions.
Mm-hmm.
They're already talking about it. The coach, all he's talking about is running the offense through Waddle. He is absolutely integral to the offense as long as he's playing. I believe he has top 10 potential, hands down. He has tons of volume. He was, I think 25.8% of the team reception yards were his. He's a huge floor for a benchmark. And honestly, maybe he's going to be sort of Debo-esque with potential with the coach coming over from San Francisco. I don't want him to just run up the middle. Instead, I want to see jet sweeps, reversals, zones up the middle. But I predict 1 billion targets in 2022, maybe around 22% target share, 24% target rate, and top 20 marks. I think McDaniels will fix Tua, but I would like to see Waddle use more downfield. But he's had some really excellent splash plays as a vertical threat.
Yeah, and I know McDaniel, not Ills. I just want to point that out because I think I was listening to Fantasy Footballers and one of them said McDaniels, and then they're like, "Wait a minute, is it McDaniel or McDaniels?" But yeah, I think he definitely great coach coming in and running everything through Jalen Waddle. I do like. I think it's potential. But Keith and I were talking. I think it was a couple days ago. Amari Cooper might be going to. A rumor could be going to the Dolphins.
Wow.
I don't think
shake things up.
Yeah, I don't think he should, but
no, the Dolphins are definitely going to sign another one, if not two wide receivers, because they don't really got anything else there.
They shouldn't.
They shouldn't, but they shouldn't just take a big name. Like Amari Cooper is a big enough name, I suppose, and he'll draw enough targets away from Waddle. But for me, Waddle could be the next Tyreek Hill. That's what he looks like to me. And I agree, Emily, like with all the jet sweeps and all that, you can do that with Waddle for sure because he's got the speed. I love the guy. I loved him coming out of college. Wasn't too sure of the fit with the Dolphins with Tua and stuff like that, but it definitely worked out well. I think sky is the limit for him. Like you said, Emily, I think Tua needs a bit of fixing, and I think they will sort that out. But yeah, I think Waddle was the next one under Ja'Marr Chase for me. Like you had the beast, as I call Ja'Marr Chase. Then it was Jalen Waddle.
Same here.
Yeah, and like you were saying about Tyreek Hillish, that was what wide receiver coach Wes Welker said about Jalen Waddle. He compared him, saying that he's a little bit of a Tyreek Hillish, in quotes. So something to keep in mind. I mean, this man finished wide receiver 13, 243.8 fantasy points. Keith knows that I was definitely not as high as a lot of other people were. That's also because they have already a big name, but he's just pushed down in the depth chart. That's Lynn Bowden, my boy Lynn Bowden. I hope he can somehow find a way into that offense this year, but if they sign another wide receiver, I think he's toast. But
he's toast last year, Fernando.
No, okay. They did him dirty last year. That's what they did. Moving on though to let's go with maybe someone that I think was drafted in the early second round as well. Terrace Marshall. I mean, wide receiver 142, 32.8 fantasy points. Obviously injuries here and there, but what's everyone's thoughts on him? I was definitely not a fan of him, and based on where he was drafted, I'm ranking him in the ugly.
I'm definitely ranking him in the ugly. What I seen early on, I liked, but then between injuries, the bad quarterback play, ball not going his way, it just didn't work out for him the first season. I mean, I don't think he's that bad. I actually liked him. I didn't mind the landing spot either. But yeah, it didn't work out for him this year. That's all I can really say. Like it was definitely ugly, but I think he's a guy that has potential, and if they get the right quarterback, he could be used right. Because it looks like Robbie Anderson's out of there, so this will open up targets for Terrace Marshall.
Yeah. Emily, any thoughts on Terrace Marshall? Maybe Yeah, I mean, I agree with the quarterback situation, Keith, as well. I mean, if it wasn't for the quarterback situation, if they had a good quarterback, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Emily, any thoughts? I think Emily might be having some technical issues. Keith, what's your thoughts a little bit on the top people? What's your thoughts actually before we rank the people? What's your thoughts on Rashad Bateman?
Oh man, this kind of hurts a little bit because I think he's definitely in the bad because I really liked him coming out and then didn't like the landing spot, and in between injuries and just not being that great, he didn't have that great of a a first year. Only had one touchdown, 515 receiving yards. It's not too bad, I suppose. He only played 12 games, but yeah, I think there's more to come from him for sure. I was a big fan of his. But I think he has to go down the bad for me between injuries and just, not getting, he didn't get enough, time on the field with Jackson for me just to, get that rapport going. And he's got to get past a few guys there too, Andrews is the number one more or less there too. So I think he's going to need a big season next year, but hopefully he can stay healthy and he has a chance to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Emily, I think you're trying to speak at all. I know you're muted currently. Maybe you can hear us again.
I am unmuted. I am sorry about that.
No, you're good.
I was, who are we talking about?
So I wanted to ask you about Terrace Marshall, but then also Bateman as well.
Oh, I have a lot more to say about Bateman than I do Marshall. But
go ahead then.
I was going to say that I think it's important to point out that Bateman had only 18 fewer targets than Hollywood Brown. But Bateman was the more efficient receiver, hands down. Brown had so many targets, but he left us wanting more. And I know Mark Andrews was productive with his targets, but I think Bateman honestly is a screaming value. I think Brown being there makes him easy to obtain and redraft in Dynasty. I mean, he had a 20% target share with Lamar Jackson as a rookie, which is kind of perfect. His college production profile was perfect, and his athletic profile was just good enough. I think he should be a hit. I think that Jackson, I think it's on Lamar to step it up to the next gear. I think that Jackson honestly is probably fine as a passer. It's just that his passing is only bad in comparison to how good his running is. But I do see a path to 125 targets and efficiency, maybe as a low-end wide receiver 1 numbers, more likely high-end wide receiver 2. So I actually thought Bateman was, I think a few of these receivers are actually in the good category.
Interesting. That's interesting to see. Definitely on Rashad Bateman. All right. So to wrap it up for the wide receivers, what's all your top people for the good, the bad, and the ugly besides Jamar Chase? And I don't know if you guys have anyone but Jalen Waddle, because I think we all ranked him good, but do you guys have anyone else in the good?
I'll take Devontae Smith in the good.
Elijah Moore.
Oh, okay.
Oh, nice one.
I'll put Amon-Ra St. Brown in the good.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He was late on good.
The reason why I put him in the good is where he finished and where he was drafted. He was drafted in the 4th round, and he finishes the wide receiver 22. I'm not saying though that he is the next top guy there. I think he's a sell high candidate for sure, and I think everyone should capitalize on his sell high right now.
Absolutely. And I think the reason he did so well is because Swift and Hawkinson were out. But when Swift and Hawkinson were both in, he only had a 13% target share, whereas Hawkinson had 20% and Swift had 19%. I just don't see St. Brown taking over as an alpha. He was great in his college freshman year, but he still never broke out. I can't help but see him as higher than just a slot receiver. I say I completely agree with you, Fernando. Sell him at his peak value, trade him, get him off your roster now, and get some other assets.
Yeah, 100%. And then for the bad, I put Rashad Bateman, in my opinion.
Yep. Didn't pass the eye test for me.
Yeah.
After a while, like in college. There's a few between. I don't know if I have any uglies, to be honest, because
Terrace Marshall.
Yeah, but that's a mixture of injuries. Yeah, he probably is. But like Kadarius Toney, he's probably
Mhm.
bad, not the
Oh,
ugly.
really?
Yeah.
I put Tony and Marshall in the ugly.
But yeah, I think I just don't.
I can see that.
I just don't really think it's their fault half the time. Do you know what I mean? I don't think they were out there enough
Yeah.
to be that bad. The way, like, I don't know. I know we're talking different position. We said Trevor Lawrence, but he went out there at least for 17 games. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
true.
think these guys. So that's who I have for the bad. Anyways, I'm gonna be nice to the wide receivers and not put too many uglies.
Okay. Emily, you got any bad or ugly?
I don't have any ugly. Bad
Okay.
is Tony and Marshall, but
Okay.
I have most of my wide receivers. I think they had pretty good seasons, honestly.
So it seems like I was the only harsh wide receiver person. In
Yeah,
this one.
you're very harsh.
My fault. My fault.
Take a
Kadarius
good look
Toney
at
and Terrace
yourself,
Marshall.
Fernando. Take a good
Yeah.
look at yourself.
I guess so. All right, moving on to our tight ends.
What are you going to do for tight ends here now? Come on.
Hey, I managed to get some names here.
Okay.
So I think we can all unanimously agree Kyle Pitts, number one. The good. Yep. Okay.
I mean, it
Agreed.
wasn't a remarkable season by any stretch of the imagination.
One touchdown is where he fell down big time.
Yeah. I mean, he did finish tight end 6, so can't complain on his value, where he was drafted and where he finished.
True.
And maybe let's go with I'm curious to see what your opinions, where you guys rank him. Pat Freiermuth, where do you rank him? 10 and 13, 210.7 fantasy points.
I'll let Emily go first because I'm a big Pat Freiermuth fan.
So he's definitely the good, biased opinion.
Oh my gosh, it's really hard for me to rank Pat Freiermuth. Everything's different. It's going to be completely different with the Steelers. So, I mean, not having Big Ben there, but Pat, he's a great tight end. He just is not getting much credit because of Pitts. But like Freiermuth, I think Deontay Johnson and Najee Harris, they're going to be fine with the changes. But I don't know if Pat F, he may not deliver on his ADP if the QB is poor. Like if Mason Randolph was there, that would be a nightmare. He had half the yards as Pitts, but he had 6 more touchdowns than Pitts. He had 79 targets. He's a talented player, but if he's not scoring as many touchdowns, then he won't be worth going after. So, like, I'm not personally buying him now. Mm-hmm. He'll probably hit 700 yards and 3 touchdowns next year. That's what I predict. Whereas Pitts, I mean, we're going to see the touchdown regression in his favor in the sophomore year.
Interesting. Okay. I ranked Pat Freiermuth in the good. I think out of all the tight ends, I think it's hard to rank Pat Freiermuth bad because it's not like he did bad. He did pretty good, especially for a rookie tight end. Rookie tight ends usually don't do as great. And finishing top 15 at least, that's not bad at all. But someone I think that should have done a lot better than what he finished is Brevin Jordan. Brevin Jordan from the Texans. I mean, he had only 75.8 fantasy points, finished tight end 43. He is the starting tight end there, and he should have taken advantage of that, given that Davis Mills is a rookie and it was definitely limited of an offense, but still.
I think he's one that's going to improve. I like another. He's a tight end that like. He didn't set the world on fire, and of course, I don't think many Texans players will. But I think going forward, he's good. And just seeing that the Seahawks have released Bobby Wagner, that kind of kills me.
Wow.
So
that kind of
breaking news.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm selling all my Seahawks defenses.
This is a big rebuild. We're not going to be left with any kind of pieces. I bet you they'll get rid of Jamal Adams now.
What about DK Metcalf?
Yeah.
What I heard is he's safe. Tyler Lockett's not safe. I think they're trying to trade him.
Where do you think he'll go?
I don't know.
Patriots. Sorry.
That's what you're hoping for, right?
He wouldn't be a bad move.
That wouldn't be a bad fit.
Lockett and Wilson connection was great. He was going to take the biggest hit with Wilson leaving. So I think probably the best thing is to trade him. Where he goes, I don't know, and what we get from him, I don't know, because I don't think he's not the top wide receiver, but he's very good at what he does.
I feel like a second and a fifth or something around that area.
I'm just so surprised to let Bobby Wagner go. It's like the last Legion of Boom player gone.
I know.
Go on, move on to your tight end. Sorry.
No, that's some good breaking news. Do you guys have anyone ranked in the ugly category for tight ends?
No.
Okay, I have one. Maybe I'm just being harsh, but
go on.
It's because of the news today between the tight end Mike Gesicki. Last season, I said that Hunter Long has really good potential to be a great pass catching back because that is what he was known for in college. And coming into this season, Mike Gesicki was on his final year of his contract, and all of a sudden Mike Gesicki gets franchise tags. So it's really unfortunate for Hunter Long, but obviously he did face injuries as well. Maybe the Dolphins think Hunter Long maybe needs one more year, but only having 2.8 fantasy points, tight end 114. I think I rank him in the ugly because I think this was his year. It's kind of the rookie season to prove that he's the long-term tight end there. And because he didn't prove it, that's why they re-signed or franchise tag, Mike Gesicki.
Yeah. There's actually
my thought.
Yeah, there's one tight end going forward. I think that's going to be good. Kylan Granson for the Colts.
Yes, he was my guy. He was my guy. I was drafting in all my leagues in the fourth round.
Yeah, I was picking him up. I picked him up off waivers. People were just leaving him there. But Jack Doyle retired. So there's a slot. And Kylan Granson was getting some work last season too. So I think going forward, he could be someone to look for.
He finished tight end 68, 32.6 fantasy points.
Yeah, it's the tight end position.
Yeah, I know. They got years to come.
He's not finished on wide receiver 68,
So none of you have anyone in the ugly. Did you guys have Brevin Jordan in the bad? Is that what we're saying in the bad?
I didn't even class him. I just had Kyle Pitts and Pat Freiermuth, and after that, then it was kind of nobody.
That's the same setup that I had.
Okay, that's fair enough. Yeah, I ranked Freiermuth and Pitts the top. But yeah, I think that's going to have to do it for this week's show, or at least today's show, because we have a big show tomorrow. Keith will unfortunately not be with us tomorrow due to work, Has to work, has to make the money.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah. But be sure to check us out tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern time, where we will have NFL Network's fantasy football analyst Michael F. Florio on. Emily, it was great having you on. It was a pleasure. Hope to run it again this summer before the season starts. Hopefully the Packers don't do anything crazy, more crazy anyways. But make sure to follow her all over social media and on Twitter at mpowered_ff. As always, you can follow Keith all over social media at swampdonkey_90 and follow him and his fiance on Instagram at huddleup_NFL. Once again, my name is Fernando and I am your host of Sports Time HQ. And we will see you all tomorrow with Michael F. Florio.